One of the most functional foods I know of is bone broth, and it's very underrated. People don't think about it in general when they are looking to improve their dog's bowl. We think of adding broccoli, adding fresh meat, adding blueberries, but adding hydration, just hydration in general, to our pet's diet is so crucial. I mean, if we think about how much water we drink in a day, and I know I've talked about water in the past and making sure that we're not drinking dead water, and there's a lot that we could talk about with water. But if we think about all of the animals in the world that are eating primarily a dry diet, so all of the animals that are eating kibble, that are eating a dry diet, what it takes for the body to actually be able to break down and digest whatever it can from that food source, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of water. And more often than not, you're going to see people that feed kibble do feed it dry. They don't add hydration to it. We do, of course, always encourage having water bowls, water always available to your pets. And one of the things we talk about when transitioning a pet from a dry diet to a fresh food diet that is higher in moisture is that they will drink less water in general. I know my dog does, but she still drinks some water because even when we give our pets a high moisture fresh food diet, there's still need for additional water consumption. Our bodies are primarily made of water. So our animals live in, and a lot of us humans, by the way, live in a chronic state of dehydration. This is really damaging. We see it. We can see the effects of dehydration on the body. We see it in our skin, in our face, in the way our skin looks all over our body. But internally, our organs are suffering. They are deprived of one of the most essential things that we can give our body, which is hydration. The same is true with our pets. We start seeing that their skin is dry. They've got dandruff, flakiness on the skin. Their fur can look brittle and dull. A lot of that can be due to dehydration. So one of the most functional foods, as I started out this little intro with, is bone broth. Not just because it is hydrating, but because it is a powerhouse of nutrition and can be used to help the body heal, whether that is the gut or adding additional collagen and chondroitin to the joints. But I have a very special guest for you today who is going to talk more about bone broth in particular. And we do talk about all of this. We talk about the nutrition aspect of bone broth. We talk about some of the negative things associated with bone broth that you may have seen on social media. And we also talk about the hydration portion of adding bone broth to your pet's food. And I think this is not only important for those animals that do eat a dry diet or even partially dry diet, but animals that are eating a whole food or fresh food diet that are getting a lot of nutrition, a lot of hydration along with the food they're eating. There is still need for additional hydration, and bone broth is an incredible way to do that. So please welcome today's guest to the Pet Parenting Reset, Flo Mason. She is the owner of Crude Carnivore. So she has a bachelor's in animal production and a master's in companion animal nutrition. She worked as a manager at a pet supply store in Illinois, where she lives, for many years, doing lots of nutrition consults, and decided to curate the first ever herb-infused, grass-fed, pasture-raised bone broth for both dogs and cats. So please welcome Flo to the Pet Parenting Reset. Flo, thank you so much for joining me today. So you own Crude Carnivore,
Yes.
and I am such a huge fan of not only small business, like micro small business, because that's me too, but also like women-owned founded businesses. So, and then you're putting out like a really, really good product on top of everything else, so, which is really great because of course, all of my listeners know, like I just try everything holistic. Let's do food first. That's my thing. But I am so thankful that we were finally able to get you on the
Yes.
podcast. So yay! If you wouldn't mind, like introducing yourself a little bit and just letting everybody know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I see you like all over talking to all kinds of pet professionals, so it's really awesome to be able to come on and talk to you. Yeah, my name is Flo. I live in Southern Illinois and I have four dogs and too many cats. um, I first dog in college back in 2012. I found her. She was just like on the side of the road, and my mom said you can't have a dog, but she's still here. So yeah, then throughout the years, I just kind of collected them. I feel like they find me. So now we have four. And but yeah, I've always loved animals, but I actually have a bachelor's degree in animal production out of all things, which is very interesting. Um, and then I really always wanted to do like rehabilitation, therapy with horses and dogs, but I had an opportunity to start a master's degree in animal nutrition, and honestly, I was not even interested in that. I thought it was very boring. I had done some classes in my undergrad, so I kind of knew a little bit about it, but it was more complex, like feeding rations for cows and things like that. That just didn't really settle with me very well. So, but yeah, so I had decided to start my master's degree, and like 2 months in, I found the local pet store that just opened, and I was like, if you ever need anybody, let me know. Like, I'm getting my master's degree in animal nutrition, still totally with the direction of I'm gonna go do rehabilitation for dogs and horses. And so I started there, and it like completely changed everything. I completely just derailed my plan and became like obsessed with trying to find the best solution for pet parents and their dog with sensitivities and disease and just learning things about the pet industry and all of the ingredients and the different supplements. And so I managed that store for about 7 years and did nutrition consultations and then I just kind of like during that time was really excited about um, products, and I was like, you know what, like what could I do? And I always wanted to start a raw food. At this point, there wasn't really much around. Like the raw foods were like primal and um, different types of food that just I don't know. I felt like there was a gap in the industry. Not to talk bad on primal, but like I just felt like there is definitely room for growth and other things. And so I was like, there's not really a bone broth. Well, I wanted to start with a raw food, but I was like, that is way too complex. So let's just start with like something simpler. And so I literally got this like little crock pot. I went to a butcher, got some bones, and I thought, well, how can I make this a different broth? Um, and nobody used herbs at the time to infuse anything. And I think still to this day, there's maybe only one other company that uses only broth or only herbs to infuse their broth. And so yeah, that's kind of how that started. I started with this little crock pot and started selling at that local store, and that really gave me like a huge advantage because I knew a lot of people who own stores, and I went to global with that store, and I really got connected with a lot of people, and I also like just reach out. So that's kind of how Crude Carnivore started, and then now we are over 4 years old and still trying to grow it and keep it afloat.
Yeah, that's
So yeah, that's kind of
awesome.
like I guess about me and how the business started. I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really cool story actually, and the fact that you're using herbs in the broth, because they are, I recently had Rita Hogan on, and I'm just like becoming more and more fascinated with herbs, and herbs as I guess a medicine, which
Yes.
I have a hard time saying that, because it's like being a pet health coach, like there are certain words that I have to kind of steer clear of, but like really it is.
Yeah.
It's like natural medicine. And I've been into essential oils for a long time, which is like, the most potent form of plant medicine. Yes. But to actually use it as food, or it's fascinating to me. So I really like that. My dog is just shaking here. I'm sorry. And then bone broth, first of all.
Yep.
So bone broth, I don't know what side of social media you happen to be on as people listening to this, but there's a side of social media that is just like, bone broth is the most amazing thing in the world, and there's another side of the coin where people are like, well, it's really high in histamines, and maybe we don't want to, it's hot, so maybe we don't want to feed it to every dog. And that also is true. But I think in general, like if we, because when you're making products for the public to consume, you have to kind of take a generalized stance. And in general, bone broth is an amazing product for us and for our animals. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So I can understand why people may be concerned about the other side of it, and thinking that, it's actually like a weird kind of concept. But animals store a lot in their bone marrow. So if you have an animal that is not raised properly, that has a very high stress life, that has a very, bland, non-nutritious diet, maybe an animal that stands all day, that is in confinement, that doesn't get blood moving, and doesn't have the ability to live life the way that it should, then you can get into a situation where you are expressing things into that broth that are not actually beneficial in the end. You can actually do more harm than good. And that's why it's so important to look at sourcing and to look at where you get your bones from. And so that's something that we really focus on. And I have conversations, and I have one local farmer that's like my favorite guy to work with, because he has like certified humane certifications, and he can tell me who does what right. And so it's kind of fun. I'm always like, hey, this person reached out to me, what do you think? He's like, nah. So I think it's very important to look at where do the bones come from? How are those animals kept? Because like anything, if I eat a bunch of processed food on a regular basis, if I don't care for my body, then I'm not going to feel 100%. I'm not going to feel good. And that will express in my skin, in my hair, in my, breakouts. Like women have, this is a huge thing right now, is trying to heal your skin with your gut, pretty much. And I think it's the same concept, like for our pets. Like if it like feeds like, and if you are feeding something from an animal that had a really stressful life, that had tons of cortisol levels or high cortisol levels on a regular basis, that did not get to move its body, did not get to consume grass or whatever the animal needs to consume for their regular diet. Like pigs love to live in mud and eat roots and be very dirty and get really in there and root. And if they live in confinement on concrete and they don't get that natural instinct behavior, they're not going to be very happy, and that will show up in the body, that will show up in the meat, in the bones. And so I can see how people can be divided, but I think that generally bone broth, if done right, is going to be extremely healing for the entire body. And then of course with the herb infusion, you are adding additional benefits to it. So I just think that it really comes down to sourcing.
Yeah, well, so bone broth, like if we can kind of go back to the generalized, it's a superfood kind of overarching topic. It is a superfood, I think. And especially, if you're doing it right, if you're getting it from, and I appreciate so much that you brought that up like how these animals are raised, because that's is very important to me. And I think it is, at the end of the day, really important to most people. It's just not something most people think about on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you and I live in this world, so I think, like, when I go to grab a package, even food that I have already vetted and I bought and it's in my freezer, and I go to pull it out of my freezer to thaw it to feed it for my dog, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just how my brain works. Like, I am thinking about that food and the decisions that I made, and to purchase that food, and knowing that, you know, these animals are humanely raised, that I'm feeding my dog grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or whatever it is. Like, these are things that are important to me. And I think at the end of the day, like, if people put more thought into it, it's important to them too. They just don't necessarily think about it.
Yeah, and I also think that, yeah, marketing also plays a huge role, because you can easily go to like Kroger, like we have Kroger, I don't know, but like any grocery store, and it'll say like free range, antibiotic free, all these things. And it's like, first of all, poultry is not allowed to be raised with antibiotics, period, ever. So that's totally like a marketing tactic. And then also, free range doesn't mean anything. Oh, hi Kim. But like, free range doesn't mean anything either, because just because the chicken isn't sitting in a cage doesn't mean it has more room. If anything, it maybe has less room, because there's so many chickens in one space, and as they grow, they just fill, and they sit on like a piece of paper size, you know, square, and they can't really move. And then they are fed steroids, and they are, you know, the production is so sad. And I honestly do not buy meat at the grocery store anymore. We will buy, like, if we are in a dire situation, we will buy like the grass-fed packets of beef. But I just personally will get, like, I just went and picked up bones from that farmer that I was talking about, and he just gave us like for our wedding, he gave us like a whole pack of meat, and, you know, chicken, bacon, pork, like all these things. And that's what I eat, and I have no problem eating that. But I have a really hard time going to the grocery store or being at someone's house and they're serving, you know, burgers, and I'm over here like, oh my, this is probably it's and you know, some people think I'm dramatic, but to me, I think about that life that lived and what life they had, and do I want to support that type of industry? Do I want to support someone who doesn't value the life of this being? And it's really hard for me. I was vegan actually for a while, when I first, like, a couple years into the broth thing, which is really hard to maintain, honestly. And I honestly think that the, like, vegan approach is like, you know, it's whatever works for you. But I also think that if we were to change a lot of it and look at, okay, but if we can source meat from farms that do it right, that care about the environment, that are into regenerative farming, that are really, you know, putting a lot of time and love into what they do, then can you hear my dogs? Oh my gosh, stop. They're so crazy. Hold on. And we can, like, support people that do it that way, we could change the entire way that we eat. And you know, human wise, obviously this is a product for pets that we make, but like you said, it's also about me. Like, I care about that, so then why would I not transfer that down to my animals? And, you know, I think people get like, well, it's a dog, but they're not just dogs to me. So I think that it's really important to look at, you know, what you're nourishing your body with, and that to me translated into the product that we make. So
Yeah. It is so important. And we're going to talk about bone broth in just a minute, but so I know I'm like fascinated that you said you were vegan, because I was vegetarian for like, I don't, like, over 10 years. And it wasn't until I started transitioning my pets to a fresh food diet that I was like, I really started examining what I was eating, not for I think when I was vegetarian, it was mostly because I didn't like, how the animals were treated, how they're slaughtered, all of it. Like, I didn't want to support that, and I didn't know any other way to go about not supporting that. And then when I started learning about my pet's health and how they need, like, I really went down this road of all of these things they need in their diet, cats being obligate carnivores. And I know there's like discussion on what dogs are. They are like, in my mind, from what I understand, from what I learned in my nutrition certification, is that they're scavenger carnivores. This is like, we're all over the place with what dogs are, I think. But I think scavenger carnivores kind of sums things up for them. But they need, like, all of the things their body needs, and the essential amino acids that only come from meat, blah, 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 all these things. And then I'm looking at me going, no wonder I'm so sick, right? Because I'm not eating any animal products. And I'm not getting all of these nutrients that I need. And I wasn't supplementing either, which is a whole other thing. But anyway, let's go back to bone broth being a superfood. Okay, so what Crude Carnivore does, what you do, you're sourcing bones from animals that are raised humanely, which is wonderful. And they're eating species appropriate foods while they're alive, I assume. Yes. So we know there's a lot of nutrition that can be pulled from the bones as you are cooking them down and pulling everything out of the bones and the marrow. The best thing, like, what I know most about bone broth is how not just nutritious it is, but also how, like, healing it can be for the gut. But I'm sure there are so many more things that you can tell me about bone broth.
Yes. So we get this question all the time. I was actually answering an email, like, right before we jumped on, from somebody who asked, like, what's the deal with the broth? Like, which one do I pick? And I realized I need to make a guide for this because I get this question all the time. And there's so much information. So sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even remember all of it, but I try. So I do like to break it down. And of course, we're going for, collagen content is always what people think is what does it. And it is right to some extent. And people often look for, like, the thicker broth as a sign that it's a very powerful healing broth. And that's why you see some companies that will use, like, potato starch or tapioca starch to thicken their broth up to make it look more, like, healthy. But those things are just, like, added sugar. So you're really actually kind of going backwards. But that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, bone broth in general just has lots of glycosaminoglycans, which are pretty much the biomolecules that make up collagen. And how that works is that they into digestion, meaning that they will not get broken down into smaller particles. They will get absorbed intact as they are to be able to be used throughout the entire body. And so they have, like, they're like little fibroblasts, and you can use them all over the body to lay down new materials. So in the gut, they're amazing for really clogging up leaky gut, for example. And we all have leaky gut. Every single, like, our dogs do, us humans do, especially if you eat a lot of processed foods or feed processed foods, your dog or cat is going to struggle with this because there's constant tearing in the gut and damage happening from, like, those processed foods moving through the body. And for those that are not 100% aware of what it is, but pretty much I like to look at the gut as like a cheesecloth. So if this is like a video representation, I guess, if you're listening to it. But, like, if you stick your fingers together and you push them as close as you can together, that's like a solid gut. And there's tiny little holes that will be there that allow, the proper particles to move through the lining of the gut. However, over time and processed food consumption and, just bacterial overgrowth and damage and everything, that cheesecloth will stretch and larger holes will form. So if you can't see this, I'm, like, pulling my fingers apart and there's larger holes that will form. That will allow larger particles, like food particles to pass into the bloodstream. And that's not supposed to happen. And that's where you'll see a ton of inflammation because you're moving these giant particles through the bloodstream that the body's like, what is this? And so it's sending all their little like armies to those particles to fight off, whatever this intruder is. And what we want to try to do is heal that cheesecloth back together and make sure that those giant holes don't remain. And so that's also why like bone broth on a daily basis is so powerful because, just feeding it for 1 week, bone broth does heal within 7 to 14 days. So it has a very quick healing, effect. However, you do that and then, you have the digestive tract in a dog, like 40-pound dog, like 13 feet. So you have quite a bit of distance to cover to really heal it all the way through. And this can take like, to solidly get everywhere, it definitely takes like 10 days from start to finish. So you definitely want to feed it consistently. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, the power of broth is just like that. It can heal those holes in the gut lining, but it can also use these collagen fibroblasts to lay down healing for joints and tendons. And so that's why it's also really powerful for dogs that struggle with joint issues. And beef is definitely going to have the biggest bones, and we're often using like knuckle bones in every single pot. They vary, so our broth thickness can vary too because we never have the same percentage of certain bone weight to this bone. Like we use a complete mixture of bones, so it does change a little bit, and that's where the thickness can change too. But beef has typically like the biggest bones, and so you have a lot of release of collagen. Pork also, pork's a lot smaller, but they also have pretty good collagen buildup too. And then lamb does also. And then your chicken and turkey are kind of a little bit different. There's a lot of tiny bones, so it does take quite a bit to get that thickness and to get that collagen release. But those bones are very, very full of cartilage and lots of good stuff in those little bones, and so that release is really great also. So chicken and turkey are actually also really good for joint health because of their amounts of good like glucosamine chondroitin release and like great amounts of collagen also. So in general, for gut health, it's incredible. It helps boost the immune system just because you are allowing the gut to heal, reducing that inflammation, and allowing there to be a good like microbiome. You're creating a good environment for all those good and bad bacteria to kind of coexist to create a balance in the gut. And so the continuous use of it makes a huge difference. Hey there.
Okay.
Okay, it's like froze.
I think my internet was just like buffering, so I apologize.
It's okay. I was like, did you hear me?
Well, and so yeah. So again, like when I'm working with a client or even with my own pets, my primary goal is to do as much as I can with food before I ever turn to supplements. And then maybe like on down the road, if I need some sort of some sort of like prescription drug intervention, that's another thing that's like way down the road. I'm not, those like memes that go around that are like, if your doctor is prescribing you whatever medication without first asking about diet and exercise, lifestyle choices, they're not a doctor, they're your drug dealer, right? And the same thing I feel like is true for our pets. And
oh my gosh,
so,
it's so crazy.
There's certainly, I know, right? Like there's a time and a place for prescription medications. I'm not totally against it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. Yeah.
But I want to do everything I possibly can with food first. And bone broth is just so functional. Like we haven't even talked about one of the primary uses, I think, for bone broth in most animals, at least in the United States or, any first world countries who primarily feed a dry diet to their pets is hydration.
Hydration. Yep.
Because that, I mean, like we do as humans, but our animals are living in this like chronic state of dehydration, and it's really damaging over time to their organs and
Yeah.
I mean just the overall functioning of their body. Like we know that we're primarily made up of water. They are too, and if we're not giving them proper hydration, so that's one of the like most fundamental things I think that we can use bone broth for.
Yeah.
Is just getting that hydration into our pets. That's totally fine. This is a pet podcast. We're used to it.
This is the second time. I don't even know. Most of the time, they don't even know what they're barking at. Hey, no, come here. One's in here, and all three are out there on the couch. But yeah, I used to feed dry food like a long time ago, back in the day. And I mean, I'm just going to admit it. Like I fed pedigree to my pup when I first found her because I did not know. I was a college student, and it was, let me just deal with them. But yeah, so the hydration aspect of everything is like so vital. And that was honestly how the broth how that idea came about, because I saw the importance of pet parents hydrating their dry food that they were feeding to their dogs, and how much that alone just completely changed their skin. Like not even changing the food, just changing how they hydrate, and that they hydrate the food with water made a huge difference. And to me, it's just like I always use the example of like, what if you ate saltines every single day? Just the dryness in your mouth, that is their body every single day. And once it shows up and that happens to the dog, you can see it in the skin, because the body will just like pull water and from the outside in pretty much to try to hydrate that food and to process that food. And I think a lot of people know this, like 4 cups of dry food would need a whole gallon of water to properly be digested. I barely can drink a gallon of water in a day. It's very hard for me. I have to make it like a project that I drink that gallon. And I, compared to my dogs, I weigh a lot more than them, and I have a hard time. There's no way your dog is going to go drink a gallon of water. It's just not going to happen. So even if they drink a lot of water, oftentimes I'd pet parents say like, well, my dog drinks a ton of water. It's like, yeah, but they will never drink enough water, first of all, to replenish what they need in their body. But also, food water and drinking water is not the same thing. The water molecules need to be attached, or the moisture molecules need to be attached to the food in order to be properly digested and broken down. And if the dry food is just being consumed like that, there's not enough there to properly break that down and pass it through the cell membrane. So but yeah, that's how my whole broth thing started, and how I was like, you know what, but we can do this. We can do one up here. We can hydrate with very healing bone broth, but also add the herbs in for proper detoxing in the body and moving things out. And our dogs are exposed to so many toxins in our environment, and that's a whole nother thing of cleaning products and all these other things that our dogs are exposed to, where bone broth comes in so handy because it's loaded with glycine, which is the number one detoxer of the liver. So it's like honestly like an all around just helper in the body. You're getting the hydration, you're getting the gut healing, you're getting the detoxing, and then with our thyme infusion also, you're getting some antiseptic properties that really help with bacterial load. Like you're getting this all around thing, like a superfood healer that can just really promote a better functioning body.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the whole point. And I know one of the things I talk to all of my clients about is not fixing the problem, but getting the body into a state where it can do what it is designed to do, which is to heal itself. So when we can use these functional foods like bone broth to aid in that. It's like there's no downside to me.
Yeah, no,
it's just
there's
one
not.
of the one of the most wonderful things we can do for our pets. My dog is going nuts. I'm so sorry. There's like
baby
thunder booming, and she like screaming at me.
Oh,
Well, she's not
sweet
screaming, just like
girl.
shaking and trembling.
Oh.
I apologize. That's why I keep like looking down. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's no even hello. My dogs are like having a freak out at my employee just to walk in to go work. It's all good. They're crazy.
Okay. So, all right. Now tell me a little bit about the product offerings you have. And you just said you use thyme. Is that the primary herb that you use? Do you use different herbs and different like combination with different proteins, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so our herbs are our ingredient panel. Besides the mushroom, we do a mushroom broth. All of them are infused with the same herbs. It's parsley, dandelion, and thyme. Dandelion being the most, like, quantity wise, the most used in each batch. And so those are our three herbs that we use, and I picked those specifically for their function in the body, for the keeping in mind that the body is exposed to all kinds of chemicals outside, inside. You know, most people still to this day clean with extremely toxic floor cleaners, counter cleaners. We spray Febreze. Like literally, the ad on Hulu is Febreze with a dog, and you spray it all across the couch. And you know, we just that's just something that is not known, and it's so vital to our pet's health. And so I mean that's probably a whole nother podcast episode, but so I wanted something that helps our dog detox their body, and so that's where those herbs came in. So dandelion is like nature's antihistamine and nature's like detoxer. And so we infuse that into there, and that really helps break histamine down in the liver. And then we are using parsley, which is a blood filter, so it helps detox the blood. And then we have thyme, which weighs the least, but they're all kind of similar quantities. And that just kind of also acts as a natural diuretic to help move toxins out of the body. So they all work very well together, and they all have their own little jobs, but they all essentially eliminate toxins out of the body, which is extremely important. And because I mean, my dogs eat, they eat Viva Raw, and we do the most. We have all kinds of supplements that we try to add, and of course they get bone broth every single day. But still, I know that they are exposed to all kinds of stuff in our environment. So those are the herbs that we use, and then we use water, and then we have organic apple cider vinegar, which this is also like kind of a controversial topic. Sometimes people talk about when it comes to yeast and things like that. I personally don't have that experience where it potentially makes yeast buildup worse. I actually believe the opposite, but I know that that's like a debate that stands in the room, and everybody has their own kind of perspective about it. Same with the histamine content in bone broth. It's kind of like a split belief. But we actually use that apple cider vinegar for pH purposes, but we also it also has its own benefits on the body, and it also helps draw minerals out of plants, which are then exposed in the broth, which are then usable by the dog's body. So it's a kind of a benefit all around, and it also helps draw. It's the acidity that helps draw the collagen and the glycine and those benefits out of the bones. So it kind of works as that power. And then of course we have our different proteins. So right now we have 7 different broths available, and I call the herb infused ones the dailies. There's 6 of them. We just launched Rabbit in December, which is the only broth on the market that is Rabbit, which I'm very excited about. That was like my number one goal to be the first. And that one actually is not locally sourced. We get that from South Carolina. They're pasture raised rabbits, and they get shipped to me. And that one's been a really good hit. And I love that one because it's a cooling protein, and people are always looking for that. They're looking for those novel cooling proteins that can, really help like reduce inflammation in the body. And and also be
Mhm.
like a really good usable source of protein and amino acids. So that one I'm really excited about. And then we started with beef, and then I think we launched pork after that, chicken, turkey, rabbit, and then we have mushroom broth also. Lamb we also have, but lamb's kind of tough because lamb's really hard to source. It's very expensive um, to process lamb, and so we're having a really hard time with that. So it's kind of coming back here and there as I get bones available. So it's kind of a tougher situation. So if anybody listening to this goes on and was looking for a lamb broth, I'm sorry if it's not available. Stay tuned. It always does make a comeback, but it's a kind of a tough one to source. And it's also, I mean, people really like it and are looking for it, and some dogs only eat that. It is a hot protein, and
Mhm.
it can be
Yeah.
more inflammation encouraging, which is surprising to me because so many veterinarians always recommend like lamb and rice food to pets that are struggling with like GI issues. And I understand that it can be like a novel protein, but it's actually extremely heat creating. So to me, that would be a protein that I would steer away from
Mhm.
if you have a dog with gut inflammation or digestive issues, just because it can, encourage that inflammation. So we don't want to do that. But and then the other one that we have that's very different is the mushroom broth. And that one we use all the fruit body mushrooms. There's no like they're not grown on, we don't use any starches or anything that go in our broth. It's literally just the fruit body of the mushroom. We use shiitake mushroom, lion's mane, and oyster. And those again were picked for their impeccable effect on the body. Shiitakes are just incredible immune boosting mushrooms. They activate killer T cells to try to tackle things in the body. And then lion's mane is probably my favorite, especially having two older dogs. It's incredible at protecting the myelin sheath along the nerves. So it protects the casing that the nerves are in, and is incredible for brain health, incredible for eye health. It just is great for cognitive health. So older dogs definitely benefit from that. And oyster mushrooms are just a general great mushroom too. They have lots of great vitamins and minerals, and it's just kind of an all around immune boosting broth, I would say. And it's kind of the same with mushrooms. Like you'd want to feed them regularly and consistently because it helps keep the immune system up. And I read this thing that actually referenced it like it's like working out a muscle. Like same with the immune system, you would want to continuously provide this source so that the immune system can continue to be strong. And so same thing, like I would recommend to feed that on a regular basis, at least a few times a week. FedEx, that's why they're having a freak. So so yeah, so say mushrooms are an incredible source of like immune health. Like they're absolutely powerful, and we simmer them for 48 hours um, at like anywhere from between 140. They start at like 140 degrees, and then we go up and we bottle at like between 190 and 210. And so they have tons of time to really release that cell membrane and that membrane that's around them. Ah, these dogs. This always happens when
Totally
you're like in the middle of something like this. They always have to act a fool, right? When you have something to do.
Yes, I
Um,
know.
but um, but yeah, so the mushrooms simmer for 48 hours, and it really releases all the healing power inside of them into the broth. And we actually have we bottle it and we strain everything, but there's always just a little bit of bits that come through. So there's like a little bit of mushroom bits that go into the broth, which is actually really good for your dog. So yeah, so those are the three mushrooms, and then there's no vinegar in that one, but we use carrots, celery, garlic, which is also controversial, but absolutely powerful at detoxing the blood and like encouraging the
I'm
circulatory system to do what it's supposed to be doing. And then we use seaweed also, which is a great source of iodine and just powerhouse. And that actually grows also wild on nets. And so everything that we do, we just try to find the best possible thing to make sure that nothing, can harm your pets. So the mushroom one, people ask me about cats, if cats can have it. My cats, some like it, some don't. There is a little, the garlic is not a lot. It's not overpowering, but there's a little bit of garlic in there. So I always tell people, um, it's something that you kind of just need to do at a very minimum with your cats. But my cats, a couple of them like it, a couple of them do not like it at all. So, but yeah, so we're just kind of all around. Oh, and then that mushroom broth also has thyme and parsley. So no dandelion in that one, just because there's just like so much going on already with the healing power of that broth. So, but yeah, those are our 7 broths, and we'll see what's coming next. I'm not really sure.
Right. Maybe you'll get back around to that raw food thing. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. My gosh, that seems like such a like. And back in the day when I thought about that, there wasn't anybody like Viva. Viva does it. I know there's like controversy with them right now, and I hate all of the things that are going on for all parties involved, but they do it
Yeah.
right. They source.
Yeah.
Their sourcing is incredible, and so it's like, why do it? They do an amazing job. Like, just let them do it. We're gonna, and I want to be a company that like focuses on what we do, and our thing is broth, and everything that we will put out will be broth centered. There will not be, I just have my hands full enough that I can't even imagine having to do something else. So I really enjoy it, and we'll see how with growing, how we're able to continue to source it the way that we do from the small farms. I think we'll always do that to some level, but I think also it'll be really hard. But whatever it is, we'll try to figure it out and find the best people to provide us with their stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate having someone like so hyper focused on doing what they do really, really well. And
thank you.
I think for a long time, I mean, even today, I can only count on one hand the number of companies that, at least that I think, are doing bone broth well for pets. It's, I can't even fill up one hand. So, like a lot of people want to make it themselves, and that's a lot of people want to make it themselves, and that's wonderful. But again, going back to the sourcing of the ingredients that you're using. So I tend to buy it. I don't tend to make it. I tend to buy it because I have just a couple of companies that I trust to do it really, really well.
Yeah.
I can see on your face, you're like,
why? I'm mortified. Hopefully we can cut all of this out.
no, it's okay.
There's literally nobody
can't tell
out
you
there.
how many
I hope
times
you
I've
can
had it
cut this
happen to
out
me.
because this is obnoxious. Culprit. Okay. This is Amiga. Hey, bad
Are
girl.
you just setting everybody off?
Yeah, she does not like Postman and FedEx and UPS. But yeah, I think that it's just I just don't even know like how people do it differently. That's what I think is so strange to me. Like, how do you not care about what you do? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I just don't understand certain brands and how they're the way that they're shifting and how they source and what ingredients they use, and it just is like just interesting. But I think that's where like the shift is happening in the pet industry still. It started a little bit ago, but I feel like we're kind of like in a peak going up with people really realizing how important it is to properly source and to find the companies that really care, and so much education going on social media and so many people really putting in the effort to put the word out there. And I think that's what's allowing companies like us to be successful and to reach more goals and change the way pets eat more. And that's in the end all that we can hope for, is that just that we can try to reach more pet parents to just try, even just adding water to the bowl. I don't even care. Like, don't buy broth, but at least give your dog water when they eat kibble, because it makes a huge difference. And I thought you were that culprit. And so I just think that, yeah, education is definitely really important. And we want to try to be better at that on our social media. It's so hard for me to I balance all of the things. Like I have 2 employees now, um, which is awesome. One of my girls labels everything, and then the other girl bottles everything, and they're awesome. And I couldn't do this because we're really moving a lot of broth right now. But the goal is to always move more and to always reach more pet parents that want to make a difference, and the ones that don't know. And it's still so fascinating to me because we are so in this world, right? We live this content every day. We live the food every day. This is what we do. So to us, it's like, how does nobody know about this? But there's millions of people that have never even thought that their kibbles and bits is causing problems with their pets. And now more than ever, we have so many toxins in our environment. People say like, oh my gosh, my dog lived 17 years on Purina, like back in, the 90s. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? We also didn't have the overbreeding that we have now, like the genetic damage to our pets. We didn't have that much of that. We didn't have as many toxins in our environment as we do today. And there's just also, dogs used to move a lot more than they do today. And there's so many things that have changed that it just takes something different now to try to keep your pet around until, for years and years to come. So I just think that the education is where it's at. And that's what, just helps us be able to do what we love, and people taking a chance, because, you never know, with marketing these days anymore, you never know. But I think, you just got to find your tribe and people who appreciate that, and just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so important to keep putting more and more education out to hopefully reach more and more pet parents. Because it always amazes me when I start talking to somebody like outside of this world, and I'm like, how do you not know?
I know.
I don't know. It's amazing to me, but it's always shocking. And it shouldn't be, because it happens all the time, but it's just always shocking.
I know. I want to be the person who stands in a grocery shop pet aisle and just stands there all day and is like, okay, so let me tell you about this. Let me tell you why you don't want to buy that. Or let me tell you what's better, or which one is the best one to pick. That's what I want.
I know.
All of grocery shopping. Somebody's looking at the Friskies, and I'm like, is it rude if I'm like, don't buy that? So it's just I would love, that would be so fun to do a series on helping pet parents at the grocery store.
Yeah,
that'd be a fun series.
Getting people to agree to that would. So where can people find Crude Carnivore?
So we do sell to quite a few stores across the country. We're always trying to grow that. So if there is a store that is near you that doesn't carry us, you can just please let me know. It does always help to get the customer to be like, can you please bring this product in? And we do love working with local stores. They do so much to educate the customers, and we don't have the time to educate all of those customers that they educate. So it's just really important to us. So if there's a store near you and you like to shop independent, just ask them. If you don't have that, then you can always find us on crudecarnivore.com. We ship all over the country. And then, social media, we're Crude Carnivore on Instagram and Facebook. We are on TikTok, but we don't really do much on there yet. So, but Instagram for sure is kind of where it's at. I feel like that's where we post the most, and where all the stores are to follow us. So I like Instagram for sure. That's where we can be found.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for putting out such a wonderful product, for coming on and talking to people about it. And I don't know, maybe we can do some more deep dives later on bone broth. And I mean, we kind of went over the
Yeah.
general, this is really wonderful for your pet, but there is so much that could be talked about for the benefits of bone broth. So maybe we can do that one of these days. But
Yeah, I
thank
would
you so
love that.
much for your time today and for talking to my listeners. And make sure to go follow Crude Carnivore, especially on Instagram. That's where I live too. So it's my favorite of the platform. And try it out. Try it. And like she said, even if you're feeding kibble or you have like friends, family, relatives that are feeding kibble, even if you can get them to add water to it, like that's the simplest thing to do. Add some water to it and just see like, it's like baby steps with some people. Like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. What else can I do? Right. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for all
Yeah,
of your tips.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, for having me on. This was awesome. I always like talking about it and getting all sciencey about stuff. So, but yeah, I'd love to do anything that, if we want to ever talk about like household products or toxins or anything like that. Like I have completely shifted my entire life over to non-toxic, and it's, I never really had an issue before, but like I just feel good knowing that whatever I use on my floor, on my counters, and in my dishwasher and my laundry doesn't cause, any issues with my pets or me. So that's a whole nother thing. But would you want to give your listeners a code to
Oh, that
we
would
could
be
give them like a
wonderful.
20% discount? Yeah. Yeah, I can create a discount with the code Pet Parenting Reset,
Ooh.
and they can get 20% off. I can do that today. Turn it on.
Yay, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
20%
I
off.
love it.
That's
So fun.
incredible.
Yeah.
Pet Parenting Reset. I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah. Long code, but
I'm one of the I'm one of the lucky ones that has a store near me that carries Crude Carnivore. So
oh, really? What store is it?
Pupology.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
So awesome. So Pet Parenting Reset, 20% off. Guys, go get it. And you have like sample, or you at least used to, I don't know, do you still have sample?
Yeah, I had the holiday kits. They're like 5 bottles in like this little box, and they were like for Christmas only, and people love them.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think I'll have a few for Valentine's Day of just like beef, because we are out of some of the other ones. And then I think we're gonna change the size. I think we're gonna go to up to a 4-ounce, just because it's such tedious job to fill all of them, and they're so labor intensive. So we're still gonna have like sample bottles, and I think what we're gonna do is actually sell them individually. Like people can create like a 4-pack of the 4-ounces, and that'll just be easier. So that's hopefully this year too. And then we'll actually have those available at retail locations also for people to try. And people like the small bottles, because the big ones you have to like freeze into ice cubes and all that stuff. So yeah. But yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Make sure that you're following the show so you never miss an episode. And please take a moment to rate the show on your podcast app. I'd also love it if you'd share this podcast with your friends and family so that they can benefit from the information to help their pets live long, happy lives too. Don't forget to take advantage of this special discount as a listener today and get access to over 100 online videos and my online dog training, The Furry Family Coach. Just go to thefurryfamilycoach.com and use code PODCAST at checkout to get your first month for only $7. That's thefurryfamilycoach.com and use code PODCAST at checkout to get your first month for only $7. I can't wait to have you join and see you on the inside.